Welcome to another episode of Convicts and Cops. Today we will touch upon a classic gang movie. American Me is a movie of fiction that loosely depicts true-life Mexican Mafia members who were in existence in the 1960s and 1970s. Edward James Olmos played the character Santana, based on Rudy Cheyenne Cadena, a Mexican Mafia member from Bakersfield. As I walk you through segments of this flick, let's keep in mind that the events are fictional with an emphasis on the word fiction. For the sake of separating true life from fiction, I will dispel several misunderstandings and myths associated with American Me scenes. Before we begin, here's a quick word from our sponsor from 2 Corinthians 8:21. For we are taking pains to do what is right, not only in the eyes of the Lord, but also in the eyes of man. As the Lord's representatives, we have to work to produce goodness, the fruit of the Holy Spirit. Let's move on to our episode. For starters, you should know for a fact that the real-life Cheyenne, Santana in the movie, was never raped in juvenile hall as the movie depicts. He also was never confronted by Black guerrilla family leader Doc Holliday, as the movie dramatically portrays. Cheyenne, Joe Morgan, and I did not know each other as kids, nor did the three of us interact on the outside as the movie shows. Although Joe Morgan and Cheyenne did have contrasting philosophies on how to deal with our adversaries, Joe did not have Cheyenne murdered, as the movie seems to imply, and as many conspiracy theorists suggest. When Cheyenne was stabbed to death by Mundo, my character played by Pepe Serna, and a group of fellow MM members, this also was not true. In real life, Cheyenne Cadena was murdered by the Nuestra Familia prison gang, and his body was thrown from the upper tier in the Palm Hall unit of Chino prison. Mr. Olmos' reason for portraying Cheyenne as being a victim of his fellow MA Confederates can only be answered by Olmos. Maybe that's what Hollywood likes to call creative license. The second American Me central character in the order of prominence is the character J.D., played by William Forsythe. He is the representation of Joe Morgan, a true-life Mexican Mafia icon. Forsythe is a dead ringer for Joe, did a kick-ass job, and he can be forgiven for his lack of a Mexican accent, which Joe did possess. Joe spoke very fluent Spanish, and he put the average Mexican-American gang member to shame. The third significant character in the movie was Pepe Serna, who portrayed me as Mundo. In reality, and contrary to the movie's theme, Cheyenne and I only interacted very briefly in San Quentin and never on the streets, whereas Joe Morgan and I were actively connected on the outside and never in prison. Also, the three of us never functioned together inside or outside the prison system. The film portrays Mundo as the main instigator to the stabbing death of Cheyenne Cadena. "You have a lot of heart, carnal, maybe too much," was the quote. I never murdered Cheyenne, and our rivals should receive the blame or credit for his demise. Puppet and Little Puppet were depicted as true-life blood brothers in the movie. Puppet was portrayed by Danny de la Paz. Little Puppet was played by Danny Villarreal. In the strangling scene, Puppet assumes the responsibility of taking out his younger brother, who had incurred the wrath of their fellow carnales. This was a sobering depiction of La M's insistence on being loyal to the organization, even before your blood family. This, of course, is indeed an accurate representation of an important Mexican Mafia rule. Mexican Mafia rules can be surely remembered and repeated by every former and active member. La M's number one rule is the M comes first, even before your family. According to Olmos, American Me was purportedly produced for the purpose of deterring youngsters from joining gangs. Among many unforgettable one-liners it has generated, one of the popular ones was "Don't look at me, puppet." To elaborate further, I can tell you, when this movie was made, there were two true-life fatal events in which internal Mexican Mafia hits took place involving siblings who were fellow members inside the organization. Loosely predicated on these incidents, I believe American Me based their fictional tale on a combination of the following two M internal killings. In February of 1973, Thomas Elmo Duran was murdered by La M at Folsom Prison by Armando Varela, aka Big Monday, from First and Indiana, for failing to take care of business when given multiple assignments. I tried to rehabilitate Elmo, who was from my Barrio Nuevo street gang. We were actually both from the Tinies, the same clique. I took him on a mission while at San Quentin, but he failed the test. After learning of his older brother's killing, younger brother Arthur Little Artie Duran, who was doing time at Soledad Prison's North facility, requested and received protective custody, or PC status. Also following suit in rapid succession and locking up in PC were fellow M and VNE prison and street gang members Refugio Peña, aka Rufus, who was Elmo and Artie's uncle, brother-in-law Ronnie Salazar, and Desi Gonzalez. The other incident from that time frame, involving Mexican Mafia blood brothers, unfolded on December 3, 1977, in Sylmar, California. In what was considered the ultimate demonstration of loyalty, and as was personally broken down to me by Conrad Big D Garcia, Richard Rodriguez, also known as Güero Psycho from San Fernando, was shot to death in his home by Ralph Vito Rodriguez for stealing money from the M. Vito was Güero Psycho's younger brother. In true life, there was no older Mexican Mafia member, no puppet, who strangled or otherwise had to take out a younger brother. But these two events can shed light on where the idea for this scene may have originated. It was a very powerful scene and, in my opinion, represents a good argument as to why you don't want to recruit a blood brother into a prison gang. If something goes south, your family will suffer immensely. Open your eyes, vato. This deadly invitation is another popular one-liner from another scene in American Me, delivered by actor Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa, called El Hapo in the movie, who plays the role of true-life Emero Mike Kuro, also known as Jap Mike from Hawaiian Gardens. Jap Mike is the only Mexican Mafia member of Japanese-American descent, so this portrayal was unmistakably based on him. Jap Mike was never present at the weight pile when a fellow MM member was killed, as shown in the movie, nor did he refuse to come out of his cell when Cheyenne was murdered in that final scene. Jap Mike, or El Hapo, as we called him in Spanish, was not involved whatsoever in the true-life killing of Cheyenne Cadena. The only conclusions or connections a viewer should read from the fictional scenes depicting Jap Mike are that he was a fellow Mexican Mafia member, period. In the Hollywood world, including the gang world, depicting Asians and women, especially for today's voracious audience, in action movies is highly desired and almost mandatory. The stabbing scene that takes place on the prison yard weight pile is carried out against Pieface, played by actor Domingo Ambris, a non-compliant MM member who in the movie refused to stab a target and explains his unwillingness to undertake this assignment by declaring he would not stab his own homeboy. In true life, Carlos Pieface Ortega dropped out of the M in Folsom Prison in 1973, successfully defecting and paroling to the streets. A younger version is shown here in this black and white prison ID photo. An older version is shown in 1981 with him standing over me in the Montebello PD gang office. He's holding a letter opener and preparing to stab me in the neck. Morbid humor, guys. Pieface became the first Mexican Mafia defector to turn state's evidence against his fellow carnales. At that time, we nicknamed him Valachi for the famous Italian mob snitch Joe Valachi. The fatal stabbing scene in the movie, shown in this photo, where Hapo invites, "Open your eyes, vato," before shanking him, never occurred in real life. Sorry to burst anyone's bubble, but in true life, Pieface died of cancer from drug-related issues. Actress Ana Lizarraga played the role of Julie's mother, the lady who discovered her grandson lying in the bathroom with a needle in his arm, dead of an apparent heroin overdose. Many Chicano mothers have had heartbreaking experiences of viewing the dead bodies of their kids from drug ODs. The tragedy of Ana Lizarraga is that she was murdered on Mexican Mafia orders from state prison. Some say for being an informant, others insist it was because of her role in American Me. Others further say she made false representations about Joe Morgan giving his personal blessing to proceed with the movie. Whatever the reason or reasons, she was gunned down execution style in front of her children in the driveway of her Boyle Heights home. Other scenes in the movie that never occurred in real life were the fellas meeting with Don Antonio Scagnelli, the Italian mobster, the prison shanking of Scagnelli's son in the prison chow hall, black gangsters raiding the Mexican dope pad and rubbing gang members' faces into the heroin powder, white gangsters killing blacks in the bar, and any other scene you may think was a true account. Besides the moody blues the convicts wore in prison, the live handballs rebounding off the handball court, the Pendleton shirts purchased at Greenspan's clothing store in Southgate, and many other lifelike depictions, the realism ended there. American Me was entertaining, and the closest depiction to the real Mexican Mafia prison gang experience on the big screen. Although Edward James Olmos desired American Me serve as a deterrent to young men and women joining street gangs, the exact opposite occurred. If the Mexican Mafia had a marketing division, American Me could not have done a better job of placing La M on the map. Ultimately, it served as a tool of fear embedded in the hearts and minds of the public. It should also continue to remind everyone there is no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Hollywood glory is short-lived and can be hazardous to your health. To those caught up with that gangster life, I can assure you there is no retirement plan you can rely on. Instead, you should know there is a cement box waiting to accommodate you to a lifetime of incarceration. Do not blame your unlucky stars or the fact that the moon was not in conjunction with Mars. It's all on you, vato. The other alternative is a deep hole in the ground 6 feet under, a one-way ticket to Brazil, as we used to say. Please take this into consideration before becoming seriously involved in that life for the duration of your life. Buenas noches, good night, and God bless you.